have a quick overview of difference between class and functional components and managing state here and lifecycle methods of class components. So what is state by itself and why do we need it? For that, let's have a quick overview on component types. And as you know, it's class components, they look like that. And functional components look like that, and we will discuss that now. So class components are ECMAScript 6 classes that are extended from a React component, and they can have state and lifecycle method, as I said. So what is state? State is a plain object used by React to represent an information about our component's current situation. So for example, in this component, our state is, we can make it empty one. Yeah, for example, for now, state is this object, and message is like empty here. And class component also have lifecycle method, as I said, and let's discuss them. You can think of React lifecycle methods as a series of events that happen from birth of a React component to its death. So what I mean here, we have diagram of lifecycle methods that class components have. Sorry, and you see mounting, updating, and unmounting here. So every component in React goes through a life cycle of events. Let's think of them as growth of cycle. Let's think of them as going through a cycle of birth, growth, and death. So for example, mounting, it's like a birth of your component. Updating, it's growth of your component, and unmounting here is death of your component. Whatever the component is rendered to DOM, if DOM for first time, it's called mounting. And you see here componented mount, and we have it here as well. And as you see, it takes care of the first render. So next one is componented update. And it takes care of all other renders. We'll discuss it later, but what comes to unmounting, whenever the DOM produced by the whenever the DOM produced by the component is removed, it's called unmounting lifecycle method. So okay, and now you see. Here we have also render. The render method is the most used lifecycle method. You will see it in React classes. This is because render is the only required method within a class component in React. This is how React learns what should be displayed on the screen, and then our React updates the DOM to match the render output. So you see that we return here JS6. Yes, and next one I want to talk about is componented mount. When your component has been mounted and ready, that's when the next React lifecycle method componented mount comes in play. So componented mount is called as soon as the component is mounted and ready. This is a good place to initiate or API calls, and if you need to load data from, for example, some remote endpoints. About componented update, this lifecycle method gets called after the React component props and or state has changed. Componented update does not get called after the first initial render. So this method is best used for example, DOM manipulation after component has rendered. What about component will unmount? Component will unmount is responsible to do, for example, to do some cleaning ups in your DOMs, especially when we want to remove a component from our DOM, we call this lifecycle method. Yeah, and you can perform any necessary cleanup in this method as was told. But I want to move to more actual and modern way of doing things in React. And that means using functional components. Previously, we couldn't add couldn't add state to functional components until we transferred them into class components. And as you see, it has state and lifecycle methods, but in functional components, we don't have any lifecycle methods or state. But usage of hooks made is really easily possible. So, for example, I want to show you here UseState example. As you know, you can manage state inside your functional components with using UseState hook. And as you know, in your previous lectures, you learned how to use that. But let's quickly have quickly overview of that. So as you know, UseState hooks always returns two values. First argument is current state, and second one is function, which will update your current state. Or otherwise, UseState enables you to add state to functional components. Calling UseState inside a function, functional components can generate a single piece of state associated with that component. Whereas the state in class components, as you see here, is object with hooks. Here you can make it any types. It can be either, for example, Boolean or array or object as well, and any other type. Actually, you can even imagine. So when you should use UseState hook, you may ask. It's especially useful for local component state, but larger projects might require additional state management solutions, which is Redux. And for now, I just want to show you how UseState works on practice. Here, when you enter something, it will be shown here. So 1 second, yeah. And we just displace this name for first we have it empty, but if we update it, for example, some string, it should be uploaded here. And after we just displayed here, and now we can say that our state for name it's this, because we indicated that as initial state, but let's it be empty for now. So as I said, the larger your project become, you will need more flexible solutions, because with UseState you can handle really big problems. Let's discuss Redux. What is Redux by itself, and let's just have a quick overview of that. So let me find that. It's Redux. It's documentation for Redux. And to be short, Redux is a state manager for React. Redux has three principles. First one is that it has single source of truth. The state of your whole application is stored in object tree with a single store. We'll talk about that later. And also I want you to know that state in our Redux is immutable, and changes are made with par functions. So passing or sharing data from one component to another is a major task, and can sometimes be very frustrating, to be honest. And to help us with this situation, Redux offers us really immense help. And Redux keeps a single store. It's here, and we call it single source of truth. So that's really amazing, and let's just have let's speak about them step by step. So you also may ask, why do we need this library? If you if you can, for example, if you, for example, have use state, why do we need to use Redux? But as I said, yes, you can use state hook, but only as long as your application is small. But as soon as your application increases, you will realize that you need some kind of architectural solutions to add to your project. And that architectural solution exactly Redux. So in the beginning, it will seem that we are writing an extra code and using an architecture that may not be used, but after you will be really amazed that handling state is really interesting in Redux. Sorry. And to simplify, Redux is small global object, which, for example, here, which has an initial state. From app, here we have components, already ready components, and we will talk about them. We will change the state from app component and display it here. So let's, I have commented it out, but let's uncomment it just to track our changes. And yeah, as I said, we just change our state from this application and display it here. We upload here new data from the store. So the global problem that Redux solves, if you have two different, as you see here, and not connected to each other components, and we want to paste and share state from one component to another. As I said, app and view name. We can simply use Redux for that purpose. Using Redux does not matter on which level of our component locates, because we can reach shared state from global object. So let's proceed connecting Redux application to Redux to our application. And first of all, you need to install like that to your application, but we will talk about that in our next lecture. For now, I just want you to know main concepts of Redux, and I have added dependencies here because Cut-Sandbox offers us to do that directly from here. So, okay, let's start creating like our store. And first of all, you need to create global object. We have function in Redux, is a create store, and you need to import that from Redux. You can see it here that I'm importing that create store function from Redux. And create store, what is that? Let's speak about that. It's a function that takes some arguments. In minimal version, as first argument we pass, it's a reducer. Reducer is a function which will change our store. So let's create here reducer. to change our store, as we said. And let's the name of that reducer be just simply reducer, and after we will of course change that when we'll have a ready application, and it will be in our next lecture. So yeah, and here is a reducer. As you see, we have here we pass here state and actions. So what represents sorry. Okay. Sorry. Okay. As was said, reducer is a function which takes two arguments, state and action. We passed here initial state, and depending which action we call here, we will modify it. Otherwise, reducer is so-called a per function that is meant to change state, and a per function is a function that does not cause side effects and whose result depends only on the input parameters. Okay, I mentioned per functions, and let me show an example of per functions to make everything clear. You see here const sum is equal, yeah, we just create here arrow function, pass here a and b arguments, and return it. And as you see, as is commented here, the result of sum function only depends on parameters a and b. And because of that, it's a per function. But if we speak about imper functions, the results only not depends only on input parameters here. So that's quick explanation of per and imper functions. So as was said, reducer is a per function, and what we put here, we need to return only that arguments here. And yes. If we have, for example, here, sorry, you see here we pass state, and it's equal to initial state. And initial state, as you see here, we have an object, and here a name is equal to Jack, but yeah, we can do it empty. Yeah, and now it's removed because for now we don't call any actions, and it's simply empty. Yeah. But if we have here more data, we will write here, for example, age is 20 or something like that. But for now, we don't need that. Yeah, and this and as was said, initially we passed here in state initial state, and now we want to connect somehow our Redux to our application, and for that we have a provider here. Provider is a component in which we need to wrap our application. You see here that we wrap our all components in provider. We will import that from React Redux. We also, if you use npm, but for now we don't need, you just import that from Redux tank. Sorry, from React Redux. Yeah, and we wrap it here and pass our store that we passed that we created here, and passed here our reducer. And our reducer for now is simply empty string. What I want to tell you more here, yeah, in reducer, I missed that part. We have actions. We need actions, and action are ordinary object which will describe what has happened. Action has a type, as you see here, and payload. It's a payload is also an object which represent which data we want to pass. And to pass this data to our reducer, we will need action creator. You see here we have a function, and action creator is a function by itself, and that returns the action that would pass here. Yeah, and often so and yes, you see here an example of our action, and as was said, the action is ordinary object which has type and payload. So action creators are needed to avoid writing the same actions many times. Yeah. But let's stop for a moment and quickly recap what's going on. What have we done? We wrapped our application in provider here and passed as a prop here store. Now we can reach that store anywhere we want using specific methods. From any component we call set name, this function, this action creator that where we pass, which returns our action. And whenever we call this set name, pass the name value we want to set up, and after that our data is placed to reducer here. Where we need to process past data and add it to our state. We can have many data types, such as was said, age and much more data. But for now, we just need to use only a name, as is shown in our initial state. And in reducer, we use switch case statement. With that, we can determine which action we want to operate with, and which action is being called. If we pass here add name type, add name we received from our action, we need to return change object. If we have more cases, we can add more action types, but for that case, we don't need to do that. And at the end, we need to return our default state if we don't pass some actions here. Also you need to remember that we can directly assign data that we passed with our without we received from our payload, like that. You can't write it like that. State is equal, for example, to action payload. You can do that because our state is immutable. And our main purpose is not to change our state, is to create a new one, to return new state. And we need here to unpack our state with spread operator and add any new data we receive from our payload. So actually, when we call set name here, this action creator, we don't pass their name directly. We pass the payload is also an object. So as you know, spreading, we need to spread this object here, like that. So that's the main purpose is immutability of Redux state. So with spreading our new data here and creating a new state, we override the last state here and return a new object. So if we, for example, receive from here some name, and our reducer in switch case statement matches add name at action type, we will overwrite this initial state and don't change it directly. We just will do like that. For example, name, and we pass here Jack. It will understand it this way. Okay, let's sum up again. We created here set name action creator, pass it here an object, but we do that in here. And after reducer is called, if action type matches with type here, with type we had in action, we take current state and return new modified state as I shown you before. So it's all, as I said, called immutability principle. We don't mutate our current state and create new one. So we reviewed reducer. Here actions. Actions are here. It's how it looks like, and store initialization here. And yeah, we can use now in our application. Let's recap that one more. We wrapped our application in provider, and to give components access to the store, we have two ways of connecting them in React Redux. So let's visit the web page for documentation. One second, it was here, and yes, first and old method to connect our application to Redux is connect higher order function. And before we had to import connect from React Redux and wrap our components with it in order to map state to props and map dispatch to props. You see it here and here. So, but now we don't need that. In React, we have hooks. It's here. Use selector and use dispatch. And map state to props, as was shown here, map state to props is a state, and map dispatch to props allows us to change the state. But as I said, we have in our modern React use dispatch and use selector hooks. And yeah, it does absolutely the same as map state to props, and as was told, it's state, and and map dispatch to props allows you to change the state that we pass here. So absolutely the same do these hooks. And use selector is to extract data from the store. We have this example here of use selector, and this way we extract data from the store. And yeah, that's equivalent to old version map state to props. And it takes a function as an argument that returns the part of state that you want to extract from your state. And as you see here, we write a function use selector. Here comes state, and we reach our state name. And as you remember, we have that state initialized state here, and for now it's empty. So with use selector hook, we extract our empty name here and display that. But we can also upload it here, and it will change. Yeah, as you see. So what about use dispatch? Use dispatch is equivalent to map dispatch to props, and as I said, it allows us to change state. Yeah, and you see that here we have created constants, variables, where we store our state value that is extracted from our initial, our global state that Redux contains, and now we can also use dispatch to manipulate with that state and change it. Let's just quickly review what just happened. We called here a hook use selector, which takes state and extracts specific value we want from the store. We have access to the store because all our components are wrapped in provider, and we pass here store. Yes, and you can also you can have access to store because of provider. And yes, so store by itself is a function where we pass reducers. It's here. Yeah, we pass exactly that store here. So now we combine them and can easily reach everything we want from our state. And yeah, and exactly reducer helps us to manipulate with data we want to add to our state. So let's change now our state because yeah, for now let's it be empty. Let's change it using use dispatch hook, and here is UC button button element, which will create changes to our state, but by on-click event. And let's have constant here, assign it to our hook. And let's move to dispatch name function here. Yes, so 1 second, and calls their dispatch. Dispatch takes action creator, as you see, because our set name for now is action creator. And we want to pass here some data as a payload. So we write here that our action creator will receive as a data name look. So when we click on this button, it will change, and that means that we called here set name, dispatched it to our store here. And action action type, as you know, set name contains type add name, matches it here, and as our type match here, we return state this way. So that means that we return our old state here. It's for it was empty, and add action payload as data. And in our case, action payload here is look. So when we click here on change name, let's reload that. Yeah, as you know, it's for now it's empty, and because we don't call here any actions, it will return our default state, and you see it's empty. But as you know, useDispatch changed our state. So our state for now with useSelector that we stored in store name is empty. But if we dispatch it here, and if we click on that button, it will call our function dispatch name here. And after we call that function, it will dispatch our action to the store, to reducer, sorry. And our set name we pass here at name, it will match in our reducer, and we will modify this way our state. Here in view name, as you know, this component is subscribed to store, and takes from a new name every time store is updated, and places to its value variable and displays its data here. This way we created the most basic example of Redux. And in this case, we reviewed our reducers, actions, and action creators together, and also have a view of our components from where we manipulate with the store, and by clicking on the button. So this way, it's a really literal example how to add it here, how to add our Redux to our application. But in the next lecture, we will have a practical example how to refactor that code and use Redux in practice. But for now, I hope you understood main concept of Redux. And yes, we can, maybe you have some questions, or no? Or you may ask if you want. So, okay. So if you don't have, here is, can you share the code? Yes, of course. I will share you that link, and you can play with that as you want. So, okay, if you don't have any questions, we can drop off, I think. So, okay, thank you for your attention, and bye.